All right, so today we're diving into this idea of the fire horse of 2026. And right off the bat, let's be clear, this isn't about predicting the future. It's about something way more personal, a test of character. And this question right here, it's everything. It really frames our whole conversation. The idea isn't about some external event that's going to happen to us. No, it's more like a mirror, one that's going to reflect who we already are, especially when things get tough.
You know, this quote from Carl Jung just nails it. It really sets the stage for what we're talking about. This isn't some prophecy, it's a psychological moment. It's that point in time when all the stuff a society has been pushing down, all the unaddressed issues, the hidden truths, well, it just can't be held back anymore. It starts bubbling up to the surface where everyone can see it.
Okay, Section 1, an internal reckoning. Here's the bottom line. These firehorse years, they're seen as these moments when a civilization's mask, the image it projects to the world, starts to crack. And why does it crack? Because it's drifted too far from the truth. It's that moment when everything that's been ignored or kicked down the road finally comes due.
So let's break down the metaphor itself, because it's actually pretty cool. Think of fire not as destruction, but as revelation. It's like a bright light that suddenly turns on, exposing everything that was hidden in the shadows. And the horse? That's just pure, unstoppable momentum. You can't rein it in. So you put them together, and you get this moment where the truth just bursts out, and there's absolutely nothing anyone can do to stop it.
Okay, so how does this internal reckoning start to show up in the real world? Let's talk about that. Section 2 is the fading illusions. We're going to look at how two of the biggest things we all kind of rely on, authority and stability, start to crumble.
The thing about authority is that it doesn't usually collapse with a big bang. It's more of a quiet fading away. It's like the costume starts to slip. The people in charge are still going through the motions, but the belief, that's gone. As one of our sources puts it, people are still standing at the podiums, but nobody's really listening anymore, not deep down. That silent agreement, the thing that actually gives authority its power, it's been withdrawn.
And this is so important. This quote from Joey Yap really gets to the heart of it. Authority doesn't come from a position, from a fancy title or a uniform. It comes from timing and what he calls moral coherence, basically integrity. And when that's gone, well, that's when this fire horse energy comes in and just strips away the legitimacy. It can happen almost overnight.
So you can really see the two different flavors of authority here. On one side, you've got performance. This is all about the show, the titles, the rituals, just looking like you're in control. It's super fragile. But on the other side, you've got authenticity. This is built on real stuff, integrity, trust. It's resilient. It can handle the pressure. And what a fire horse year does, they say, is it puts both to the test. It reveals what our institutions are really built on.
Okay, so after authority starts to wobble, the next illusion to fade is stability. And this one hits close to home, right? We count on our systems, the power grid, the supply chains, the markets. They just work every single day. And that repetition makes them feel permanent, totally robust. But that feeling, it can be an illusion.
But check out this perspective. What we call a sudden collapse is rarely ever sudden. It's more like the last straw that breaks the camel's back. It's the visible result of all these little misalignments, these weaknesses and shortcuts that have been piling up for years. The system was already rotten on the inside. The crisis just rips off the wallpaper and shows everyone the cracks.
And this really points to a massive collective choice we've made. We've basically chosen efficiency over resilience. We want everything fast, predictable, and optimized. That's efficiency. But it's brittle. It snaps under unexpected pressure. Resilience? Well, that's different. It's flexible. It accepts that things can go wrong. And for a long time, we've traded that enduring strength for the slick, fast promise of efficiency.
So let's move on. Section 3, judgment without delay. The question is, what happens when those big illusions, authority, stability, start to really crack? How do people respond when that ground starts shifting underneath them? Well, one of the first things that comes up is this idea of judgment.
Have you ever noticed this weird thing we do? This phenomenon of judgment after the funeral? While someone has power, we're careful, right? We soften our honesty because, well, telling the truth can have consequences. But the minute they're gone, the floodgates open. The threat is gone, and suddenly everyone feels safe to say what they really thought. It's judgment, sure, but it's always late to the party.
And this quote really highlights the cost of that delay. That huge gap between what we say in public and what we whisper in private, it creates a kind of fracture in us. And trying to speak the truth later on is an attempt to heal that fracture. But it's never quite whole, is it? Because it's a substitute for the courage that was needed in the moment.
But there's another response starting to pop up, and this one is different. It's more immediate. It's a kind of rebellion without a leader. There's no single voice, no manifesto you can read. It's just people reaching their own personal breaking point. They're not waiting for a signal. They're just getting exhausted and saying, you know what? I'm out. I'm done with this.
And you can see the difference right here. A led rebellion, that's the classic model. It's centralized, it has a figurehead, and the goal is usually to just replace the person at the top. But this leaderless rebellion is totally different. It's decentralized. It's not about climbing the ladder or replacing the boss. It's about walking away from the ladder altogether. And that's a whole lot harder for anyone to control.
Okay, so this brings us to the real core of this whole thing. Section 4, the fire that reveals. Because all this external chaos, fading authority, shaky systems, it all circles back to us, to the individual. It becomes a deeply personal test. And the key idea here is that a crisis doesn't build your character, it exposes it.
And we've got a few really powerful quotes on this. First up, Caroline Myss. She says that when you're under pressure, your psyche just defaults to its true settings. Compassion comes out if it was already there. A need for control comes out if fear was already hiding inside. The crisis doesn't create these things. It just turns up the volume on what's already playing. JT Spiritman says the same thing, just beautifully. Spirit, he says, never shows him people becoming someone new in a crisis. Instead, they become more themselves. It's like an amplifier. The fire doesn't invent anything. It just reveals what's already there.
And to wrap up this thought, here's Suzanne White. She says people discover who they are when they can't perform anymore, when the mask comes off. Some people rise up with courage. Others grab on even tighter to control. And here's the kicker. Neither one is an accident. It's a direct result of the inner work that you've either done or you haven't. Which leads us to the final and maybe most important question. Section 5. What survives the flames? If this fire burns away all the illusions, all the performance, what's left? What are the qualities that actually endure? The things that allow someone to come out the other side stronger, not just burnt out.
Well, across the board, our sources point to 5 things. First, grounding, just being connected to reality, to humility. Then, truth, and that starts with being honest with yourself first. Third is courage, but the quiet kind, the kind that acts without needing a round of applause. Then there's integrity, making sure your actions and your values are actually lined up. And last, presence, the simple but incredibly hard ability to stay in the moment and not get swept away by panic or reactivity.
And really, that's the whole point. The final reckoning is never external, it's internal. When all the external stuff starts to fall away, the systems, the titles, the illusions, the real test isn't what's happening out there. It's about who you choose to be on the inside. It's about who you were when the pressure was on.
So we're going to end right where we started with a question for you to think about. Because in the end, this fire horse energy, it doesn't care what you predicted. It doesn't care who you blamed. It only has one simple question. When the performance was over, when all the structures were gone, who were you when no one was watching?